Hello, my wonderful people. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on your time zone or anytime you are coming across this platform called Linda's TV show. If it is your first time and you like what we are doing here, kindly subscribe, put on your notification bell to all notification. In that way, you'll be able to know when we upload a new video. I want to appreciate you too for creating this wonderful platform we are using to pass information across to the members of the public. I put a disclaimer that here in Linda's TV show, we react to all forms of videos. We do not and will not promote anything misleading information, hate speech, violent, or trying to instigate war. We are only here to inform, educate the members of the public because information...
If you didn't teach my mother how to trade, my mother would have been a Muslim porter somewhere in the lorry. It was this training that saved my life and put me where I am today. My mother got the whole family out of poverty, the family of my wife out of poverty. Everybody that knew my mother got that person out of poverty.
Your father was an Ukwanima?
Yes.
From the present Delta State?
Yes, from Utabono. Utabono is the town, the village is Ikrebe. The local government is called Kwale, but don't speak Kwale to me.
No. By now you should be able to speak Kwale fluent.
I went there, I stayed 3 years trying to learn the language. It didn't, but I know how to distribute cola when visitors come. I know what to say, and when we have to drink palm wine and things like that. It's okay.
When your father died, you were left with your mother.
That's right.
And your mother was a Muslim?
Yes.
You grew up in Ilorin?
That's right.
You grew up as a Muslim?
I grew up as a Muslim. I read the Quran.
Are you still Abdul Rahman?
No, I had to change that. My mother, during the Civil War, I thought we were going to go to Ilorin. Then she said, no, your father was not from Ilorin. Your father was from Utabuno. And she stayed there 4 years. My mother spoke the language. Yes. And my father had a second wife, Mama Beatrice. And anytime my father traveled with my mom, I was always with Mama Beatrice.
The picture is in the book.
The picture is in the book. That's how the woman identified me when we were looking for the place. And imagine, it was on a market day.
Eke market.
Eke market day at Utabruno. And can you imagine the whole market and the first person you stop to ask, where is Isama's house in this village? The woman said, who is asking? He said, like this man. Then she said, calm down. Show me your right leg. I have a white spot on my right leg. She said, I used to the language, and I forgot the way she put it. But what she meant was that she used to birth me when my mother traveled, and I was always with her, and she was looking after me and all that, and that we took pictures together. And that mark was the mark that she used in remembering my name.
And she went to bring out the picture.
She went and brought out the picture. And that was me. I was 4 years old. I was 4 years old.
And you finally saw the place of the father's birth.
That's right.
You were happy.
I was, absolutely.
By this time you were already a soldier.
Yeah, I was already a major. I was a major. And when we got to the village, and my mother was telling everybody to declare for the federal government, and they said, all right, look, what is your name? I said, Abdurrahman. Abdul. The man got annoyed. You brought a Hausa man to come and say, we should come and declare for federal government. Mama Beatrice saved the day. So, but then look at it. Either way, Biafra did not trust me. The northern troops, the federal troops did not trust me.
We're like between the devil and the deep blue sea.
That's exactly how I wrote it in the book. Very interesting life I went through.
Yes. And you have to swear to an affidavit.
Yes.
To change your name.
Yes.
From Abdul Rahman
to Alabi Isama to Alabi Isama. Isama.
Your father gave you the name Godwin.
Yes. But I use the name Godwin all the time because the PZ, my father worked at the PZ and they were Scottish. So I don't know if people do that now. My last child was 17 years old. The family will give you names. The friends will give you names. So I had Godwin as my middle name. I had Moreni Keji. And, I had all these names that people gave me. But I kept on with Godwin and Godwin.
But Abdurrahman gave you that advantage and the opportunity to join the Nigerian army from the north.
Yeah, from the Lorry, yes. But I could have probably joined from anywhere if I passed the exam. At that time, this north-south thing was not really there. You had to pass the exam. And the exam was rigorous. And that was what happened.
But you also mentioned here that at some point, the standard for enrollment into the army began to fall because of the politicization of the army.
That was when I was sent to go and recruit northern officers. What happened there was that there was a coup in Togo against with their president called Olympio.
Yes,
Olympio. And they were dragging the man on the floor. And NPN, which was the Northern Political Party, won the election. NPC, you are very correct. Northern People's Congress, you are very correct. And then they panicked that this could happen to them. The Igbo officers were 37. The Yoruba officers were 10. The northern officers, the Hausa speaking group, they were only 8. And as a matter of fact, they had, that was one of the problems we had in the country. The first coup was a great disaster. It was to one side and they killed the northern officers and the politicians. And who led the coup was an Igbo-speaking man. That was why it was an Igbo coup. It was not an Igbo coup. They were like minds, university students, and Nzogo himself. They were just like minds. They could not be indifferent to what happened in the country. They wanted a good governance and good country.
So the intention was not Igbo dominance?
No, it was here. But today I will swear to that.
You met Nzogo, right?
Oh, very well. Very well.
Tell me about him.
Well, a very brilliant officer, and he was in Kaduna. He came to Zaria often, and we were always at the officers' mess. He just liked my sporting activities, and he loved my debates. Every time we had things to say about tactics and so on. He was in charge of tactics at the Nigerian Military Training College. So every time he came, I wouldn't be surprised that he had asked for me to come to NMTC, because after the coup, they transferred me to NMTC.
As the Nigerian Military Training
College. So I wouldn't have surprised that he asked me to be transferred to the military college, because he was always discussing tactics and strategy with me. I was a very young officer to him.
Was he a very calm person?
Oh yeah. When you use the word calm, just a nice, intelligent officer. He loves discussing tactics and strategy. And he loves reading books. Every time he came, he would ask, which book did you read today? I read a book called The Gun, The Ship, and then military books and so on. He discussing tactics and strategy with me.
Did he appear revolutionary?
I don't think so. He wasn't different from any of us. And he never discussed in the officers' mess things happening about politics and so on. Even up to today, I never loved talking about politics because I just cannot understand politics.
So from what you know today about his role in that coup, was he deceptive?
No, he meant well. He meant well. But, issues like this, let me put it this way. Human beings, the vitality of human beings is peaceful. But even by nature, human beings are humane. We're nice people. We want good things. We want good life. But along the line, some warped people will come and say, you are white, I am black. You are north, I am south. I am rich, you are poor. In the east, they will say Osu and rich man, all those. So, it's a play on your emotions. Many civilians perhaps had done that to him. And because they did that to him, maybe he got these ideas. But he probably had discussed issues with friends, people of like minds. I was too junior for him to talk about situations like that with me. But he respected my contributions in conferences, in debates, and sports.
When you got to know that he led the coup in the north, how did you feel?
I was on holidays. I was my first leave ever in the army. After my operations with Njoku and General Mamalari, we had an exercise called Exercise Bellyache, where instead of Njoku capturing me, I captured Njoku. The story is in my book. From there, we started thinking that things were not going well in the country. Officers were discussing politics, corruption, people getting 10%, and openly they got 10% in business and so on. But I was a bit too young to discuss such issues with senior officers. It's not like now where junior and senior officers were talking. In the officers' mess, you have to take your place in those days.
But these so-called junior senior officers, they're young men.
Yes.
Some of them were in their late 20s.
Yes. The thing was, they took over from the British. The British had their nose up. They too had their nose up. It's still happening to today. The leader was British. You took over from him. So, Alabi that used to come and discuss with you and play with you and eat with you. Oh, now I'm a governor. You don't have a chance. So, it's at the gate. Tell him I'm sleeping. So the situations went wrong. Situations went wrong after the independence in the country.
And the reaction from the copies, from the Nzobus,
yes,
was appropriate. Is that what you're saying?
Well, at that time, the killing was not, I couldn't have imagined them killing anybody, especially the senior officers. In fact, my mother said, and I wrote it in my book, that whoever killed Sadana would not see Christmas.
Yeah.
And many of them never saw Christmas of that year. That was what happened. It was very bloody. My mother was coming from Zaria to see me at Kaduna because she heard that they were killing officers and everybody. She was then discussing with some people in the public transport and they happen to be Ukwane people. So she spoke the language with them. They got to the roadblock. They told everybody to calm down. These two people, husband and wife, were killed. That started my mother's involvement also in the Civil War.
Look at how you wrote it here.
Yeah.
Said on page 27.
Okay.
In the public transport, my mother sat by a couple who were speaking Ukwane, the language of my father, a language spoken by the people of Ndokwa area of today's Niger Delta area.
Okay.
The couple was shocked to see and hear an Ilorin woman with 3 tribal marks speaking Ukwane language fluently. They became friendly and chatted away in a bus in which they were traveling. That again was the power of language fluidity, which we have failed to appreciate as a people.
That's right.
So the point you're making there is that we have not appreciated our diversity.
No.
You feel there's strength in diversity?
That's right. That's right. And we have accepted English as our language, as our common language. Whereas we could do better than that. For instance, if today you say all schools, if you are Yoruba, you must pass one other language, either Igbo or Hausa. And if you are Hausa, you must pass one other language in your high school, which was either Igbo or Yoruba. And the Igbo will do the same. Either you pass Yoruba or you pass Hausa. Can you imagine the number of teachers, Igbo teachers that will be in the north, Yoruba teachers that will be in the north, Hausa teachers that will be in the north, in the east, in the west, at that time? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there would have been so many Hausa teachers teaching Hausa language in the west, in the east, and even in the north, because the north also had Yoruba and Igbos living there.
So that would have brought deeper integration.
Oh
of
yeah.
the tribe.
Oh yeah. By language, all of us will have probably, by today, we will have had a lingua franca, even if you didn't have it. But I would have known how to speak Yoruba or how to speak Igbo, a language other than my language.
You said here, then the bus was stopped at a military roadblock mounted by northern troops between Zaria and Kaduna.
Yes.
During your arrest after the coup, right in front of my mother, these 2 Igbo look-alike families were dragged aside and shot dead right there. That was happening in Kaduna then.
Yes.
That is what we
Between
just
Kaduna and Zaria and the roadblock.
and that has been described as the pogrom.
No, you see, well, you should check the meaning of pogrom. Were they trying to eliminate a whole tribe or a whole group of people? This language has been used many times depending on who you are talking to about the Civil War. When you use the word pogrom, what about the Zogo group that killed all the northern leaders? Was that a pogrom? In this case, the Hausas couldn't reach the eastern leaders. They just killed traders and passers-by that looked like Igbo.
So is that
Many from Calabar, many from Sapele. People in those days, if you were not speaking Hausa, Igbo or Yoruba, Sapele people, Gwari people, all of them, if you were not speaking Hausa, you were not you are not from the north. If you are not speaking Yoruba, you are not from the west.
You know, your mother got worried
Yes.
after experiencing that thing.
Yes.
And she came to you,
Yes.
insisting that you have a mission to achieve,
Yes.
to save your father's
People, that's the way she put it. That's the language she used. to save my father's people. Now, like that, you're talking about my father's people. Who are they? I've never been to the village. I was born in Ilorin. I followed you and my father, according to you, to Kwale. You people stayed there for 4 years. You were able to speak the language. I cannot speak the language. I was told that I was speaking the language when I was little, but I couldn't speak the language after all, since I stayed in Ilorin and in Abeokuta. I didn't speak the language anymore. So who are these my father's people? That was the problem between myself and my mother. And she insisted she wouldn't take no for an answer.
That you must deliver.
She went to Emir of Ilorin.
Who was in a meeting at that time?
At Kaduna.
And she
wanted to go to Ilorin, as a matter of fact, to meet the Emir. But then we were told that all the Emirs were holding a meeting at Kaduna with the governor.
That was Usman
Katsina. So we went to Usman Katsina, who took us to the Emir. The Emir came back to Usman's office, who was the governor of the northern region at the time. And that was how my mother told her story again, that she would like me to save the lives of as many of my father's people. Alaja, when you talk about my father's people,
this was your mother who didn't want you to join the army.
That's right.
Now you have joined.
Now I joined the army. Now you know I wanted to leave the army with all these things. And you said no.
That you must save your father.
My father's people.
And you began that mission.
Of course I did.
To save military officers of Southern origin.
Yes.
You put some of them in the train.
Yes. Particularly those of the NMTC. They started killing the Igbo officers at NMTC. In fact, I wrote about one Major Uwakwe, Simon Uwakwe. Very nice officer. He was my classmate. We went to England the same time. We joined the army the same time. Very brilliant King's College boy. He was from Arotuku. They shot him at the back here, and the bullet came out of his mouth.
He refused to die.
He didn't die. And that's exactly the word I used in the book. He refused to die. We put him in the plane. He got to Lagos. They drove him off. And he lived. He lived.
It was brutal during that time.
Everybody was killing everybody. There was no command and control. Everybody was killing everybody.
Even those you put in the train at some point,
they were ambushed at Mina. They were ambushed at Mina. Adekule himself was ambushed at Mina.
He was shot.
He was shot.
But he survived.
He survived. And then even in Marine Commando, he saw all these people that shot him. They were there. He discussed with them.
And your activities got to the notice of rebellious soldiers who wanted you dead.
That's 4th Battalion. Because, now, here was the point. When I was in 4th Battalion, when we did Operation Bellyache against Njoku's 4th Battalion. And there was one Captain Amadi, Major Amadi. He was senior to me, who was in charge of the Wete operation in the West. But he was siding the Obga people. I think that was the Awolowo people. They removed him and put me there. And he just didn't like that. I was too junior to know who was right or wrong. All I was told was keep peace in the area. And I did. And it was so successful because I was able to meet people that went to Ibadan Boys High School. I was able to meet the Oba of Oshobo called Matomi, Oba Matomi of Oshobo. And the Oba at Ede had just passed on. 2 of his children joined the army from my recommendations. So I did very well in the area. And I was very popular. He didn't like that. He reported me to my boss. The picture is in the book that I was always sleeping in Ibadan instead of sleeping at my headquarters at Oshobo. I moved, he had his headquarters at Toshuku. I moved my headquarters to Oyo. So I was not there. Then one day, that I was always going on patrol at night. My officers, Ini, Magoro, they will go on patrol by day. I will patrol by night. So by night, the man came and didn't see me. And he asked the officers and the soldiers, and they said, I've gone on patrol, I will soon be back by 6 o'clock. By 6 o'clock, I showed up. He said, he was told that I was never around with my troops. But the point is, there had been peace since I got there. How did I do that? And they said I was sleeping at Ibadan. I was not sleeping at Ibadan. And the soldiers that we went on patrol with every night confirmed that I was not sleeping anywhere at Ibadan. So the Igbo officers in 4th Battalion were not my friends. So my friends were Hausa officers. I wrote it in the book like that. So during that coup, they killed this commander, Abogo Lajima. And they expected me to come back from leave so that we can kill the Igbos together. But I didn't come back. I spent my leave. And I went to see Zogo at the brigade headquarters. What is happening? He told me the story. I was there with Zogo at the army headquarters and the brigade headquarters. You see, so the 4th Battalion was expecting me to join them in killing the Igbos and Igbo officers in Ibadan. No, I didn't come back.
When you didn't join them,
they were now looking for me, and I was now saving the Igbo officers of NMTC and the Igbo civilians that came to the train because it was announced on radio.
And Hassan Katsina backed you in that operation?
Yes, he gave me all the authority to use the vehicles, to take the rail and all that, to take the coaches and everything.
Was he really sympathetic to the cause of the Igbos and other Southerners in Kaduna?
Exactly, that was a word I would like to use. He was very sympathetic because when Nzogu was killed, he gave Nzogu a full military burial.
I want to ask why. When was that done?
Because Nzogu was friendly with everybody. He was so educated that when Nzogu, when he discusses with you, you will see that this man has something upstairs. He was very friendly with everybody. He went to us and he said, hey, which one will you do? Are you joining me or not? And that was say, I joined you.
If Hassan did not say I joined you,
you probably would have gone him down.
He was that tough.
Well, that's not tough. That's not tough. I would not say that's tough. Because I just can't explain it. To me, it will be wickedness. It's because you don't care about life.
It was a desperate move.
Yeah, but desperate about what?
It was a revolution.
Yeah, well, if it was a revolution, then you must succeed or you are dead. You must succeed or you are dead. It's either of the two. But then, by the time he got to Lagos, he was arrested by one war and all that. They didn't do anything about it. Even if they had just put them in jail.
But they were in prison?
Yeah, they were in prison and nothing happened.
There's a picture in your book on page 23.
Okay.
My sent off from 3rd Battalion at Kaduna to NMS Zaria, 1962.
Yes.
You have David Bamigwe and Lieutenant Emmanuel in this picture.
Yes.
You know, we talk more about Zogu, the role of Zogu in that coup.
Yes.
If Ajuna does not get the kind of mention that Zogu gets, why is it so?
Yeah, because the world doesn't think about the second person. You are failure. It did not accomplish anything.
In the Lagos end?
In the Lagos end, he got 1 or 2 people killed and he ran away. In fact, he got to a stage that he was afraid of killing again.
So he wasn't wicked?
He wasn't a kind of, he didn't have that kind of mindset of killing. He was like a revolutionary and didn't bother anymore.
Imagine if Nzogu was in Lagos, what would have happened?
Nzogu would have leveled Lagos. But if Ifeanyi was in the north, he would have failed again. He was not the leader type of person.
And they gave him Lagos.
Well, he was transferred to Lagos. He was working in Lagos. They couldn't take him anywhere else. He was the brigade major to General Mamalari, and he was supposed to kill Mamalari, which he did. And the Mamalari was his boss.
The same Mamalari that loved your tactics.
Exactly.
No, Mamalari felt you were innovative.
That's right. I mean, again, during that coup, I met one of Jem Bewo, and I said, "Did they kill Mama Larry?" He said, "Yes." Okay. I just left it like that. He was like my mentor. He was the only Nigerian instructor at the military college when I was a cadet. And there was no time I went to play football that he didn't go. He wanted to play football all the time. And with Akinade, we used to go out at night. We were young kids who would go sneak out at night. We were not supposed to go out. We would sneak out at night and come back. Many of the Igbo officers, like the name I remember, Anyon, he promised to, he said, "You will want to go out with us. Look, you have to know how to do long jump." He said, "I'm champion of long jump in my school and all that." Anyway, we took him along. Akinade jumped. I jumped. Anyon fell in the river. Now, we realized he couldn't go to where we were going. We were going to nightclub. Now, to go back, if he was caught, we would be in trouble. We had an escape route and how to come back. They caught him. And when we got back, we went to sleep quietly. Nobody knew where we went. And then he had mentioned that he went out with Alabi Sama and Akinade. They went to the room and they found 2 of us sleeping. You crazy. I think you're getting better. Anyway, Anyon was a brilliant officer, but he failed. He failed. Now, we knew how to go out and how to come back. If this man was caught, we would be in trouble, so we went back and we went to sleep. The only people that knew we went out were the people who were my bedmates and all that, and the roommates and so on.
So when that members of the 4th Battalion,
when they came to Kaduna
and they needed you dead,
they wanted me dead.
The
We were not supporting them.
The way you were sneaked out of Kaduna is interesting.
Yes.
You got a plane ticket.
I got a plane ticket paid for by Abba Kyari. He was a major, I think, or lieutenant colonel, anyway. And then he told Waziri, who was an instructor with me at the tactics school. They had NMTC, Nigerian Military Training College. And if the Nigerian Airways never arrived on time, 8 o'clock, was supposed to take off 8 o'clock, to arrive like 7:30, take off 8 o'clock. It had never arrived even before 9. But on that day, it took off exactly at 8 o'clock, and we were told that 4 battalion people came to the airport at dawn. They said,
They came to look for you.
yes, they came to look for me. They wanted me to be with them.
There was just chaos everywhere.
They
There was
wanted,
no control.
who was going to do the control? There was a revolution in the country. It was a disaster. Everybody was to himself and God for us all.
That was the counter coup.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
It was more bloody, right?
Of course it was. They couldn't reach Igbo leaders, so they bounced on the traders. Of course, they bounced on the traders for two reasons.
But why were the army killing private citizens? Because the army was involved in the public execution of Southerners. Why did the army do that?
No. The army was looking for Igbo officers and soldiers.
And when they could not find them, and when they killed the ones they found, why not just go on with the officers and leave the private citizens?
Elijah Bilo, when you see them, ask them this question. How will I know? How will I know why they didn't do that? But what I am trying to tell you was that when they couldn't find the Igbo officers, they bounced on the traders for two reasons. I haven't completed that sentence. For two reasons. The first reason, you are Igbo. Okay. The second reason, you had attractive items. You are the one selling TV, radio, cars, and so on. If you were killed, the rest of the of course they would. The rest of their property belonged to you. They took over their houses, and then there was a revolution in the country. Uncontrollable. If you survive, by the good grace of Almighty.
So the ticket you got was not really for a meeting with Gowon.
So when I got to Gowon, I said no, he had been told that they saved me because 4th Battalion was looking for me. You know, to show you how people seem to like me in the army, my activities, my sporting activities, my debates and conferences and training. I was very popular with the troops as well.
Why were you so excited to go on a tour of the North to educate school students to join the army?
Alright. No, it was not my idea. The late Sadana, may he rest in peace. He told one Kakgreen, the picture of Kakgreen is in the book. And I was like a brilliant northern officer. I was at grammar, remember? And Lauren Pessin, I read Quran and all that. Now, he specifically pointed that I should go and recruit northern officers because there were only 8 and the West only 10, the East 37. So I went to Kindri, Kefi, Barewa, all the schools in the North, Lawrence, GTTC, Umaro, all secondary schools in the North. We didn't get enough. So we lowered the standard for teachers training college.
Lowered the standard?
Yes, and that was still not enough. So there was what we call RSA, a British exam, which was said to be equivalent to GCE or something. Anybody that passed that was also recruited because nobody in the North wanted to join the army. The civil service was just, even in the country, nobody in the Western region wanted to join the army.
But the question is that the standard had to be lowered.
You pay attention to this very place. You see that initially it was the Igbos that were on the top. We have up to 36 or 37 officers from the Igbo side. Yoruba has 10 and Hausa has less than 8. They were not interested. None of them were interested. But after the counter coup, they killed all the Igbo officers. You can imagine that it was this man that was going to beg them, recruit them, and even for them to be able to come in, they have to lower the standard. They lowered the standard. That was what one of the soldiers was also speaking that I played here in one of the systems we had, how they lowered the standard. And it was this lowering of standard that brought the Northerners in, that today, these same people who the standard was lowered to put in the army, today they are the ones that are in charge everywhere. They have been able to exterminate every other person, and they are the one that are in charge. And you want the Igbos to join your military now to become followers, to become slaves. These histories are very important for people to be paying attention to it. Very important. This man is telling a story. Some of these histories are something that we don't pay attention to. We don't listen. But when we see these videos, why we play it is for us to digest it, listen to it properly. Some of you think we are playing it for fun. It is not for fun. I'm going to be bringing many videos that this Edmond Okilo made. I'll be bringing them to use them on live stream and play and explain certain things. This man made a very outstanding, even in that Igbo coup, you hear him say it, that it was never an Igbo coup. The intention was never to dominate anybody. It was for a better Nigeria. But out of their wickedness or whatever, they made it an Igbo coup. To an extent, you see how he explained everything and how they lowered the standard just to accommodate the North. And see how they conducted the program, how many people were murdered in cold blood, how many Biafrans lost their life. And he had the question that that Michael Kilo asked him. Why did they stop after they have taken the life of senior officers? Why did they go ahead to take the life of the civilians? And the man couldn't answer. He said, when you see them, you ask them. And in his own way also, he said there are two reasons why they attack the civilians in the North. The two reasons, which is also the reasons we are saying, and which is also the reason they are still attacking up to today. One, because of our properties in the North. Two, because of Igbo man. The hatred for being an Igbo person in Nigeria is a crime. And the envy of us not being beggars because of the properties we have. They want to kill us and take over our property. And sometimes they don't hide this thing. Even people in Edo State say it. Even people in the South Side, they say it. The success of the Igbo man is the envy of every region in Nigeria. And that is the genesis of the hatred we are seeing today. You see, when we play these very kind of videos, there are so many lessons to learn in it. We are not just playing it for fun. There are many lessons. So many lessons you need to learn. After I play this, I'm going to play the video of Chukwuma Zogu. The person that caused this coup, he was not thinking of Biafra. It wasn't for the video. That guy is a serious one Nigerianist. The reason he conducted the coup was to create a better Nigeria. Chukwuma Kaduna Zogu was looking for a better Nigeria. At the end of the day, what they brought up against us was the loss of 5 million lives, hatred, trouble that we are facing up to today because of one Nigeria. You see, when we say we don't want to be part of this one Nigeria, it is not a joke. It is a fact. And that is why I will be playing these videos from time to time. Going forward, I will be bringing these videos every morning or every evening to play so that you can understand why we do what we do and why we must get out of Nigeria. Listen.
Look, you have to know how to do long jumps. Champion of long jump in my school and all that. Anyway, we took him along. I can hardly jumped. I jumped. I know who fell in the river. Now we realized he couldn't go to where we were going. We were going to a nightclub. Now to go buy a ticket. I got a plane ticket paid for by Abakiari. He was a major, I think, on Lieutenant Colonel. Anyway, and then he told Waziri, who was an instructor with me at the tactics school, they had NMTC, Nigerian Military Training College. And if the Nigerian Airways never arrived on time, 8 o'clock, was supposed to take off 8 o'clock, to arrive like 7:30, take off 8 o'clock. It had never arrived even before 9. But on that day, it took off exactly at 8 o'clock And we were told that 4 battalion people came to the airport and they said
They came to look for you.
yes, they came to look for me. They wanted me to be with them.
There was just chaos everywhere.
They
There was
wanted
no control.
who was going to do the control. There was a revolution in the country. It was a disaster. Everybody was to himself and God for us all.
That was the counter.
Oh yes. Oh
It
yes.
was more bloody, right?
Of course it was. They couldn't reach Igbo leaders. So they bounced on the traders. Of course, they bounced on the traders
Listen
for
carefully.
2 reasons.
But why were
Listen
the
carefully.
citizens?
Exactly. Listen.
Because the army was involved in the public execution of Southerners. Why did the army do that?
No. The army was looking for Igbo officers and soldiers.
And when they could not find them, and when they killed the ones they found, why not just go on with the officers and leave the private citizens?
Elijah Obilo, when you see them, ask them this question. How will I know? How will I know why they didn't do that? But what I am trying to tell you was that when they couldn't find the Igbo officers, they bounced on the traders for 2 reasons. I haven't completed that sentence for 2 reasons. The first reason, you are Igbo. Okay. The second reason, you had attractive items. You are the one selling TV, radio, cars, and so on. If you were killed,
Envy,
the rest of the
jealousy, greed.
of course they would. The rest of their property belonged to you. They took over their houses, and then there was a revolution in the country, uncontrollable. If you survive by the good grace of Almighty.
So the ticket you got was not really for a meeting with go on.
So when I got to Kawan, I said, no, he had been told that they saved me because 4 battalion was looking for me. You know, to show you how people seem to like me in the army, my activities, my sporting activities, my debates and conferences and training. I was very popular with the troops as well.
Why were you so excited to go on a tour of the North to educate school students to join the army?
All right. No, it was not my idea. The late Sadarna, may he rest in peace. He told one Crane, the picture of Crane is in the book. And I was like a brilliant northern officer. I was at Brahman, remember? And Lauren Pessin, I read Quran, and all that. Now, he specifically pointed that I should go and recruit northern officers because there were only 8 and the West only 10, the East 37. So I went to Kendry, Kefi, Barewa, all the schools in the North, Lawrence, GTTC, Umuaro, all secondary schools in the North. We didn't get enough. So we lowered the standard for teachers training college.
Lowered the standard.
Yes, and that was still not enough. So there was what we call RSA, a British exam, which was said to be equivalent to GCE or something. Anybody that passed that was also recruited because nobody in the North wanted to join the army. The civil service was just, even in the country, nobody in the Western region wanted to join the army.
But the question is that the standard had to be lowered
to be able to get enough.
To be able to get enough.
Yes.
At that point, we began to destroy society.
If you say so, but they ended up being brilliant officers. Babangida was part of that group. All those that joined the army in 1961, Babangida, Buhari, Gumel, Salam, Abacha, all those that joined the army in 1961 from the north were part of that program.
They ended up ruining the country.
No. And then what I'm saying is that these were brilliant officers eventually.
Brilliant people who transformed a country potentially great to a poverty-stricken land. IBB was Nigeria's head of state. Abacha was head of state. Buhari was head of state. Abdul Salam was head of state. Is this the Nigeria of your dream?
No. Here is the point. I understand what you are trying to say. But there was a system in the country called feudalism. In feudalism, the elders were, okay, let me give myself as an example of feudalism. In Ilorin, where I was born, after the death of my father, my mother brought me back. You couldn't bring a Godwin or Godin back to our family place in Ilorin. So I was still at Brahman, right? Now, there was what we call Bale, the leader in the family, will be the oldest, the leader in the family. Bale every morning will give the children some money to go and buy food. The wife was selling the food. Ruka. So this Bale Alabikanike in the family was the eldest. And the family was called, and they are still called Ubandawaki. They are in charge of cattle in the area. When he died, who was going to give us money? There was nobody to give us money. I was just a young boy of 5 or 6. And I stayed at the junction. My mother was not around. I will hold a plate as a beggar, and somebody will put a farthing there, or maybe they call it. It's like, say, okay, just say 1 naira. They put a 1 naira. I'll go and buy rogo, which was cassava. Then another person will put another one. I was a beggar. And then I'll go and buy granite. I still like eating granite till today. I'll go and buy granite. That was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, I'm taking you on a journey now. Watch. Those elders, those that are older than myself, who were like 10, 15, who used to get money from this one and couldn't get money. They were stealing and picking pockets and stealing things, and police catching them. At that time, if any of them would be told, I give you 1,000 naira or whatever the coin at the time, which was pounds and shillings. If I give you 1 pound, go kill that man. It is feudalism that caused the unrest in the country till today.
And we can blame the leadership of the North for that, right?
It is the leadership of was about Obasanjo not leader in the country.
But was he a feudalist?
Oh, wait, what did he do to change feudalism? Did he change feudalism? That was how Awolowo lost the election, because he said he will change. First of all, he will change feudalism. 2, he will probe the army. The army was going to hand over to him. Obasanjo did not want that. So he said Awolowo for that reason.
You said in your book,
yes,
on page 21,
okay,
that by October 1st, 1960, there were 57 Nigerian officers, of whom the North had only 8. You have mentioned that?
Yes.
The East had 37,
yes,
and the West had 10.
Yes.
How come the East had 37? What happened?
In the days of the British, they had not started the idea of northwest, south, north. At that time, you were the brilliant person in the country, and they recruited you because you joined the army. And
did you hear that? This part is very important. In the time of the British, the Biafrans were majority in the army. 37 from Biafran, from Igbo land, 37 Igbos, Yorubas 10, and that was about it. And the reason was because then people were recruited based on competence. If you are brilliant, they will recruit you. This man is testifying to that. But what do you have in the army today? Today, it is about quota system. It is about quota system. And they have succeeded in driving away the brilliant people from the army. We have left it for them. You see why when we speak about our freedom, I speak about it with all my strength, with all my power. I will continue to ask for the breakup because Nigeria is not made. Today, Tinubu is in UK today, gallivanting. He's in UK gallivanting. And they do not care because as long as their own interest is not affected, they don't care. They don't care because their own interest is not affected. They don't care. Look at the testimony of this guy. That the reason he was asked, why is it that the Igbos has 37 officers? Yoruba have only 10 and the Hausas have 8. This man explained that it is because the British choose the brilliant. The brilliant people are chosen. I want us to go through it again.
The leadership of the North for that, right?
It is the leadership of was about Obasanjo not leader in the country.
But was he a feudalist?
Oh, what did he do to change feudalism? Did he change feudalism? That was how Awolowo lost the election because he said he would change. First of all, he would change feudalism. 2, he will probe the army. The army was going to hand over to him. Obasanjo did not want that, so he said Awolowo for that reason.
You said in your book,
Yes.
on page 21,
Okay.
that by October 1st, 1960, there were 57 Nigerian officers, of whom the North had only 8. You have mentioned that.
Yes.
The East had 37,
Yes.
and the West had 10.
Listen
How come
carefully.
the East had
Listen.
37? What happened?
Listen.
In the days of the British, they had not started the idea of northwest, south, north. At that time, you were the brilliant person in the country and they recruited you because you joined the army. And every school in the north, all secondary schools as a matter of fact, in the east and the north had cadet. Umaria Government College had cadet section in the school. So this British had these people, the students as cadets. And those of them that wanted to join the army, they pushed them to the army.
So the selection was based on merit.
Well, based on merit and your love for it, because in the north there was so much to do. They had civil servants. There was, as a matter of fact, we're talking about free education of Awolowo. Sardauna did a better free education than Awolowo, but Sardauna's free education was for the elites, the politicians, the leaders in the area, and the traditional leaders' children. Awolowo was free and compulsory. That for all. For all. There were so many Hausa beggars' children that went to school. They had to go to school.
So Sardauna's free education would not have been better than ours. Oh,
no. When I use the word better, was that in the north they gave you money to go home, they gave you uniform, they gave you books, they gave you cap to wear and all that. I would not say, you just go to school. And they went to school. And it was compulsory. If you didn't go to school, they will arrest your parents or something. When I use the word better time, it was because they put more money, but it was for the children of the elites, the children of the traditional rulers.
and that is feudalism.
And that was feudalism. And that's what you practice till today. Till today.
It was clear that system was going to lead to chaos, right? Or we didn't see it coming.
No, Awolowo saw it and said he was going to stop it. So the northerners that were enjoying it, you see, go to any village in Nigeria today. More than 50% of the beggars will be from the north. Despite the fact that you're talking about Babangida, Abdul Salam and the rest of them. as they looked after themselves.
Hello, my wonderful people. As we have finished watching this interesting video, please, I want to see your comment, your contribution, your opinion in the comment section. Like I said earlier, let us do it constructively. Tell me what you think about this video that you have just watched, and also about the platform. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please remember to subscribe, put on your notification bell, share this video, and remain blessed.